Nvidia's market cap is getting really close to passing Amazon. Now, some people might be thinking that's crazy, and others might be saying we are headed to the number one spot. On today's episode, I want to take a closer look at some recent news impacting Nvidia stock, mainly with its CEO at a keynote event, and then some new products the company did announce. Finally, I want to take a closer look at some other semiconductor news impacting the market, like ARM being up over 20% today, the CHIPS Act and companies that can benefit from it, OpenAI CEO looking for $7 trillion to change the semiconductor market, and finally, a semiconductor sector that I believe has opportunity to grow. Welcome. For those not familiar, my name's Jose Najarro, and I spent way too much time reading about semiconductors and AI. But thanks to that, my education and work experience, I believe I have created the number one semiconductor podcast for investors. So let's get started with today's episode. I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode. All right, so let's start off with just the overall market cap news that we saw today. So Nvidia's market cap right now is $1.78 trillion, where Amazon's is $1.79 trillion. At one point throughout the day, we did see that Nvidia was actually a bigger company than Amazon, but by closing, it kind of shifted back out. After we beat Amazon, the next in line is Google, and Google has a market cap of $1.84 trillion. So before we go any further, guys, I do want to hear from you. What are your thoughts of Nvidia being 1.7, almost a $1.8 trillion company? More importantly, what do you think about it being bigger than Amazon and Google? I definitely want to hear your thoughts, so let me know in the comments below. All right, so next I want to take a closer look at Nvidia's CEO. He was at a keynote today. He talked a lot about AI solutions and the future of sovereign AI. And the first thing is Nvidia CEO mentions that every country needs sovereign AI. And this is something that we've been covering in this channel for a long time, and it's something that analysts are just finally starting to get to understand. So sovereign AI is Nvidia's CEO saying that, hey, look, a country has to develop their own infrastructure. A country has to develop and protect its own data, its own culture, its own language. And the only way you can do that is by building your own AI infrastructure. Nvidia CEO also mentions that building a supercomputer compared to a lot of these other investments that big countries make is pretty much negligible. So it's not like the cost of it or even building a supercomputer is hard. He does mention that globally, every country should be able to put up and build up a supercomputer to be able to host their own AI solution. So that was the most important thing that I wanted to share, Case, as Nvidia CEO is trying to kind of eliminate this false narrative that only the big players will be able to own some form of AI solution. The other thing that Jensen mentioned was he took shots at other cloud server providers. He mentioned that NVIDIA is the only platform that's available to everybody on any platform, and that NVIDIA has pretty much democratized AI, and this is something that no other player has done. For example, cloud server providers, if they didn't have NVIDIA's GPUs, they will have their own ASIC solution. But if they had their own ASIC solution, like we saw, Microsoft has the Maya 100, Amazon has the Trainium, Google has the TPU. If NVIDIA wasn't there, those big tech giants in theory would have all the AI to themselves. So the overall keynote was about 22 minutes long. I do believe those were the main points. There are a few other points that we have here that we're going to cover in a bit. But first, I want to take a closer look at a new product that NVIDIA did announce today. They did announce the RTX 2000 ADA generation GPU. And this is just a GPU for the consumer market, more for like workstations for engineers, but it's mainly in the low cost area. I do believe this is less than $1,000. I think it was actually $700. But this is a GPU that should be able to do well with entry level AI workloads, with entry level engineering, with entry level designing, game computing, and all the coding, and the list goes on and on. So NVIDIA is not only still focused, obviously, in the data center market, but they want to continue to bring their AI solutions here to the consumer market and to the engineering market as well, which I do believe is very, very important. Now, before we take a closer back look at Nvidia, I want to take a closer look at ARM. But before we go there, guys, if you are enjoying the episode, make sure to hit the thumbs up. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. I really do appreciate all the support. We hit 34,000 subs, 35,000 this week. Is it possible? I don't know. I'm getting pretty lucky lately, but I just want to say thank you guys for all the support I am receiving. So ARM Holdings, right? The stock was up nearly 30% today. At one point, I believe it was up over 30%. And to me, reminder that this is a company that has a very low float of shares, that SoftBank still owns a good amount, over 90% of shares. And we can see here from this report here that ARM's value may become clearer next month when a 180-day lockup expires and SoftBank will be able to sell some of the shares that they own. And they own 90% of the shares. So that added volume, that added supply, is it going to be enough to keep the demand? And that it's at the end of the day, everything in the world is supply to demand. Right now, it seems like there's a huge demand for ARM shares, but there's low supply, low floats. So you see very, very strong actions like this. How would that change within the next month? That's something that we're going to be watching. But I personally, I would not invest in ARM Holdings as a long-term investment at these current prices. Maybe traders might be getting a better results over time, and obviously maybe you want to invest in long terms, but I'm just speaking from where I would consider my investment thesis in ARM, and I wouldn't touch this anywhere near right now. But let me know in your thoughts right now if you guys are purchasing ARM for either a long-term investment or more for trading investment in general. The other thing I want to take a closer look at is OpenAI. We've kind of seen a lot of news that OpenAI wants to kind of change the semiconductor market because there's not enough AI chips. And supposedly OpenAI CEO Sam Altman is looking for $5 to $7 trillion investment in establishment of fab networks. When I first read that, I thought that was crazy. And Jensen actually, during that keynote that I was just talking about, actually made fun of that and said $7 trillion is way too much money. You don't need that much money. And it's kind of just showcasing that, hey, look, right now, AI, everybody's trying to mystify that it's super expensive and all this and all that. The final thing that I want to talk about this keynote is Nvidia CEO does believe that the AI segment could expand to $2 trillion by next year. We did hear from their most recent earnings call, and I think the earnings call before that, that there's over $1 trillion worth of data center servers right now that need to be accelerated. So that's the first $1 trillion there. The way he got the next $1 trillion is within the next 5 years. Obviously, we're going to continue to see the build out of new data centers, of new solutions. And he does believe within the next 5 years, we're going to see another increase of another $1 trillion in data center market. So really, really big news in my opinion. I do believe Nvidia right now has a long way, has definitely a nice tailwind, but we're going to have to definitely watch out on those earnings for supply chain issues, for any weakness in the market, where I personally don't believe there's going to be any this quarter, but it's not always a perfect story, and that's what we have to be prepared for. All right, next I want to take a closer look at the CHIPS Act before ending the episode on taking a closer look at market that I believe has plenty of opportunity. So we did have reports that the U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina has announced that there are some substantial subsidies will be distributed to chip maker investors in the United States within the next 2 months. And obviously right now most of this money is going to be going to the manufacturers that are expanding here in the United States. The first ones you should think of are TSMC, Intel, Micron Technology, Global Foundries, Texas Instruments, On Semiconductor, and these are going to eventually get this money and then kind of follow through to the equipment companies and purchase equipment with those subsidies. Now, the final thing I wanted to take a closer look at is I know sometimes people say, hey, we only talk about Nvidia, but we talk a lot about different semiconductor news. And about a month ago, I did a video here where I said missed the boat on Nvidia stock, two beaten down growth semiconductor stocks that can, in my opinion, rebound. And those two are companies that deal in the mobile market here in the semiconductor space. And in the semiconductor space, we always see over inventory corrections happening one way or another. And right now, that over inventory correction is happening in the automotive market due to numerous reasons, right? High interest rates is creating pressure for buyers to go and buy new cars. So we're seeing low purchase there, and overall it's kind of causing a backlog in inventory and manufacturing in general. So right right now there are a lot of companies that are in this space that are down a nice amounts. So I'll probably do a video on this later on, but right now the two ones that I'm keeping an eye out and have actually purchased now are Air Test System and Mobile Eye. Again, this is a market that will take some time before the market correction happens, but this is what we saw, for example, with Nvidia. So Nvidia, right, in 2021, I believe, or 2022, we did see a huge here in 2022, we did see a huge decline from its overall peak due to over inventory correction. And then when over inventory corrections happened to rebound, we started to see some growth. Then obviously AI happened and we continue to see some more growth. But there was a time where the over inventory correction was fixed, and that was a main driving force for this overall stock. And I do believe we're going to start to see the same thing in the automotive market in the upcoming quarters. So, right now, in my opinion, we're going to continue to see volatile times here in the automotive space. But this is time where I would like to do dollar cost average and every few weeks increase my overall positions, as it could be quiet for some time. We can see even more downturns, but in the long term, I do believe it's a great opportunity. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.